listening to the Weird Radio, where the weird is normal and the normal is weird, at www.the-weird.org.
Good afternoon and welcome to A Touch of Spirit. My name is Lorraine, also known as Somi, here at The Weird. Normally I'm here with my guest host Richie, who is not available this afternoon. Hopefully he'll be joining us later. So Gigalite graciously agreed to produce the show for me since, as I said, Richie's not available. And I promised him he wouldn't have to talk too much today. So let's get started.
I'll be a quiet good boy today.
Okay. Most of you in the chat or our listeners in the archives and so forth know that I'm an empathic medium. But I want to tell a little story about how I ended up here at The Weird. It all started about a year ago. I had done a meditation. I went to the metaphysical shop where we had our paranormal discussion group. We did another meditation then. After that, I led a workshop on developing mediumship. We did a lot of exercises on developing mediumship. After that workshop, I did a couple of readings for people. And then I decided to stay for an Ascended Masters Gallery, which is a really high frequency, high vibration gallery, if you've ever been to one. Afterwards, we went out for a late dinner, and one of the women there had asked me for another reading of a sort. So it was really kind of a high frequency vibration day for me. I made the mistake of not shutting down, of not lowering my frequency, so to speak. So as I was driving home, it was about 12:30 in the morning. I was on the turnpike, and I looked at my dashboard. I don't know, the clock, the speedometer, the GPS, something. And when I looked back up in my mind's eye, I saw what I can only term as the mothership. Imagine, if you will, a craft that was more than 18 highway lanes wide. It was quite huge. There wasn't too much traffic, but I'm looking at the other cars. Nobody seems to notice, and I'm going, well, of course not. It's in my mind's eye. I wasn't freaking out. I didn't hear the word. It was more of an empathic feeling, but I was being told over and over to prepare. It stayed with me for 10 or 12 minutes maybe. I'm basing that on how many miles I had to drive before it disappeared. So, and I was kind of like, oh, well, that was interesting. That's kind of weird. Yeah, okay. Because while I have always believed in extraterrestrial life, I was never a UFO chaser. I had never seen a UFO. I knew people who had. My mother-in-law had. My husband had. But I just, I was like, well, they're out there, but, until one knocks on my door, what do I know? But before that event, actually, something else had happened. So let me backtrack just a little bit. I'm getting ahead of myself there. This was March 3rd of 2013, and it was the wee hours of the morning. I was in bed on my laptop playing solitaire. The overhead light was on. The lamp and the TV were on. An infomercial was playing, and I looked at the time. It was 3:23, and I told myself to finish the game and get some sleep. I became aware of a high-pitched humming. It was very constant, was not warbling like a helicopter or anything like that. And slowly it grew louder until it actually woke up my cat. and he was beginning to freak out and walk all over the laptop, and it was becoming extremely loud, and I was worried that it was my air conditioner unit in the attic. I was trying to get the cat to calm down so I could go pull down the attic stairs and see if if there was fire or even if that was where it was actually coming from. And I had almost managed to pull Bo off of me when all of a sudden lights came on. These were strong white lights that were pouring around the blinds. I have 3 windows side by side in my bedroom. I looked through the bathroom door and I could see light coming into the bathroom because my mirror actually reflects the window over my bathtub. There was light pouring in my bedroom door, and it should be noted that opposite of my bedroom door is a large panel window in my foyer over my front door. And by me saying this, you've probably figured out by now my bedroom is on the 2nd story. So it's not like someone turned on car lights and they were shining in my window. A lot of things ran through my mind. I had no doubt at all that it was alien. I was actually wondering if I had time to write a note to my kids. Finally, I decided at the very least I needed to try and get a picture. I knew where my camera was down the hall. So I had just about managed to peel the cat off of me when it was like someone flipped a light switch. The humming and the lights stopped. I got up. I very gingerly opened up the blinds and peeked outside. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. The only thing different was that all the dogs in the neighborhood were barking. We don't have that many dogs, and they almost never all bark at the same time. I can't ever remember another time when they had. I looked at the clock, and it was 3:36. I wasn't contacted then, I don't think, not unless I actually lost 24 hours and didn't realize it, but anyway, so that was actually the first thing that happened. The thing with the mothership was 6 days later at 12:30 a.m. on March the 9th. Then let's see, then in April, something really odd happened. I was at the local Walmart doing my grocery shopping. I was moving along. I stopped and I did a double take. I thought I saw what some people might call a gray, only she was tall and her head was not as big. She wasn't gray either. She was more a powdery teal blue with goldish brown spots. Her eyes were smaller and the nose and mouth were larger than what most drawings of a typical gray, look like. For some reason, I also had the feeling that her knees bent backwards. When I did the double take, she just looked like a normal person, and she looked back at me. And I was like, okay, I'm losing it. At this point, I'm losing it. A couple of weeks later, I was driving on a different highway and started to go over an overpass. And again, I looked up, and this is broad daylight this time, and there was another mothership that appeared. This one had a lot more detail. There were actually symbols on the outside. I can't recall them all. I did recall some of them. Not that I can figure out what they mean. What I felt with this sighting was more along the lines of I was being told where to go when the time came. And at this point, again, I was kind of like, this is interesting stuff, not sure what to make of it. But after this second sighting, I started having odd dreams and just bits and pieces of things like Grace standing around me, um, odd humming instruments that, in someone's hand around me. Nothing real concrete or of any length specific, just bits and pieces of dreams. So that's why I started looking for other people who had similar experiences. And I ended up in another chat room, and someone told me about the weird, and that's how I ended up here. And it was interesting because a lot of people seemed willing to say, well, yes, I've been abducted. Yes, I've had experiences, but no one really wanted to talk about it. And I have recently come to think that someone needs to break the ice on this, and also because I think abductees tend to get a little bit paranoid, that maybe the more people who know, the safer I am, I guess, is the way to put it. I do have some close friends who know, again, no one knows 100% what I've been through, but I do have some close friends who know most of it. And it's interesting because the military types are like, don't say a word, but the non-military types are telling me to tell everybody. So I decided, since I'm not in the military, I decided I would go with the tell everybody theory. And again, even at the end of this broadcast, no one will know 100% what I have experienced. And Mystical Dragon chat room, is what you see seen so mean? I'm not sure what you're asking, Dragon.
No, you meant when you talked about the gray before, with the backwards bent knees. I think you meant the Andromedan is what you saw me.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I had another window open. I didn't see Andromedan is what I'm saying. Okay, well, that's good to know because I don't know one race from the other. We talk about grays like they're interchangeable. I do believe there's more than one race, just like we have Australian, Chinese, Japanese, what have you. I believe grays may have many different races within the race themselves. So, Andromedan at the supermarket. Yes, thank you for confirming that. Thanks, Gig, for catching that. Interestingly enough, I actually got some crystals from the metaphysical shop that was meant to help me remember my dreams, because I actually went for a number of years without remembering any. I'm not sure if that was a good thing or a bad thing, because the dreams did start becoming more detailed and so forth and so on. I did make notes of a few things, but none of them are very important to this discussion. I will also say that during the last summer, the summer of 2013, I started noticing some craft. At first, I thought they were car lights being reflected in the window over my door, but the color was not quite right. They were a very dull amber, and instead of a bright glowing red, or I don't know too many cars that have orange car lights in the back. But I was sitting on the sofa watching a little TV, trying to relax, and I noticed 3 orange amber triangles, like right triangles, move swiftly across the window over the door. And however, they stopped, and then 2 started moving to the right, and the third one moved straight up, stopped again, and then shot off to the left. So at that point, I stopped trying to convince myself they were car lights and thought, okay, maybe there are actually craft out there. On August 19th, it was one of the bigger events that happened. and this is very emotional for me, so bear with me. I had made dinner that night, and I turned on the TV. I sat down in my corner of the sofa, and I changed the channel. I have cable TV, so at the bottom of the screen came on the cable box, and it said that Storage Wars was on between 6 and 6:30, and that the time was 6:14. I thought to myself that I'd watch the last half of it while eating my dinner. I dropped the remote, and I turned to pick up my plate from my side table. And when I did, I froze, and I became paralyzed. The only way I can describe it is that it was like watching a movie being rapidly downloaded. Images and information were flying by so fast in my mind's eye that I could not really seem to hang on to it all. There was so much information, I was only able to grab bits and pieces of it. I felt it was alien in nature, and I wanted to get up and write it down before I forgot it, but I couldn't move. The data was deeply, deeply, deeply profound. I know that much. And I was in awe of it. I was bothered by it. I felt like it was important, and I needed to. Good. My other co-host has come, so we're going to add Richard here to the call. It was so profound that I was puzzled and bothered by it, and I wanted to get up and write it down, but I couldn't move. All of a sudden, 3 grays were in my living room. They were very small in stature, between 2 and 3 feet. And hi, Richie.
Hi.
Hi. I'm sorry, I was just explaining something that happened last summer. Gigalite was kind enough to get us going on schedule. I'm glad you finally made it.
Oh, bless him.
Yeah. But anyway, so I'm sitting here and I'm seeing all of this movie, this download flying by, and these 3 grays appear in front of me. There were these odd shadows behind them that were very dark in the center, and then they expanded out and they were lighter towards the edges they were almost glowing around the edge. I don't know if those were some kind of portal they had stepped through, or someone had said that they believe grays always travel with guardians. I don't know if that's true or not. But after after what I thought was only about, 15, 20 seconds, everything stopped. The download stopped, the grays disappeared, and I thought, I have to get up and write this down. And I stood up, and I realized I didn't really remember any of it. I could recall some scenes of destruction. I felt like I had information about some kind of plan. I felt like I had a date, but I couldn't remember any of it. And then I realized that I had not been hearing the TV during this, and the theme song for Storage Wars was playing. And I looked at the clock, and it was 6:32. So 18 minutes had gone by. And I thought it had only been less than half a minute. I really feel like I had stumbled onto something that I shouldn't have, and that these grays were sent to make me forget. This idea that I had some kind of knowledge and it was taken away was driving me insane. Last February 15th, I underwent hypnosis. My thought, my hope was that it was an overactive imagination, that I wouldn't be able to remember anything, that I could put it all behind me. That is not what happened. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. Hi, Richie. How are you doing today? I'm so glad you finally made it in.
Oh, I'm doing okay, sweetie. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sorry I'm late, you know.
Good
No,
evening,
that's
Rich.
okay.
Yeah,
You know,
how you doing, Gig?
I'm fine, thank
Gigs
you.
was
Good.
kind enough to step in, and so we could get started on time. Um,
Yeah, I appreciate that. But go ahead, Lorraine. Oh
uh,
God,
and I'll tell you the same thing I told Gigs before we started. I have an awful lot here. If you have a question, please feel free to ask. But anyway, in September 30th, I had surgery on my parathyroid, and it was just a day surgery thing. And I went home, and that night was quite horrible. I was in a lot of pain. I felt like I was choking because of all the swelling. Was just kind of a miserable night. And at one point, I woke to find three grays around me. And it's kind of funny where our minds go when things are happening, because we think the most bizarre things. But when I woke, I wondered if one of them was standing on my bed. He was so close to my left side because I sleep on the right edge of the bed. And one was at my feet, and I was like, okay, are you standing on the bed too? But the other one was on my right, and his head was very close to mine. Um, I then became more aware of the throbbing of my incision, and as I said, I had slept very little, and the pain and the swelling were so bad, and I was kind of like, okay, am I hallucinating from exhaustion? I mean, I really didn't know what was going on. And again, I felt like I was choking, and the one on my right moved, and he waved something over my throat, and I didn't know if it was his hand or something else, and quite honestly, I didn't care. I was just like, oh, please, I'm so tired, and I hurt so much, I just want to get some sleep. Um, then I didn't know anything else until I woke up uh, at late the following morning, and the swelling and the pain were better. Now, these were not the same type of grays that appeared during the vision, the download, I should say. Uh,
And we have a question in the chat room, Lorraine, from Wayno.
yes.
Doesn't the fact that you are an empath make you feel the visitation, but not the recollection?
Does the fact I'm an empath make me feel the visitation? Yes. Be- that's kind of a complex question, actually. There have been times when I have felt things. Did my mind create a vision to go along with the feeling? Very possibly. I'm not going to deny that as a possibility at all. Um, I have tried during the last year to feel what these aliens feel, and I will talk more about that in a bit. However, I'm going to say this. We as humans, I think, try to put human feelings and agendas on aliens that just do not exist. Uh, if you would, imagine try to comprehend what an earthworm feels. Can you do it? No. Doesn't mean the earthworm doesn't exist. Doesn't mean he doesn't have an agenda of some kind. His agenda is to eat, poop, procreate, do whatever. But can we possibly begin to understand the emotions of an earthworm? No, can't be done. It's impossible. It's completely and totally impossible. And it's that way with aliens, or at least in my experience, it has been. I believe that some of these people who have quote unquote been in contact and received messages from aliens, that because of their life experiences and perceptions, have put their own emotions into it. That's why we have some who have had wonderful events, wonderful contact events, and some who have had horrific ones. Again, they're just putting their own life perceptions. This has been one of my I'm not going to say pet peeves, but one of my missions in my mediumship workshops is that you have to let go of ego. You have to let go of your own life perceptions and accept the message for what it is. And Richie, I know you and I have talked about this on the show as well. It is what it is. So, I forgot where I was. Okay. After probably the next big thing to happen, because this one actually became this was a physical, a very physical, as opposed to a telepathic. Up until this point, I believe every contact was telepathic with me. But November 19th, I was in a car accident. I spent the night in the hospital. And the next day, my son and his girlfriend brought me home. And even though they wanted to stay, I said, no, I'm okay. I just want to sleep here on the sofa. And I was laying on my right side with the back to the door because most of my injuries and bruising were on the left side, and they were just too painful for me to lay on that side. And I dozed off. I woke to the most lovely cold feeling on the swelling on my neck. And I was like, oh man, this is just heavenly. This is wonderful. And I thought my son and his girlfriend had come back to check on me. And I rolled over to say, oh, hi, how you doing? Greet them and to thank them for the compress. And lo and behold, it was not my son. There were 3 what I term ethereal grays who are taller, more slender. They were in silver uniforms, not black, but they were standing near my sofa, and one actually had his hand on my neck. And I could not get excited or upset or scared because, quite frankly, I had been through a very major ordeal. I do remember thinking to myself, I cannot deal with this at this time. And I said, go away. I can't deal with you now. And the next thing I knew, it was several hours later, and I woke up. I don't remember rolling back over. I don't remember falling asleep. It was just it was just something that happened. And yeah, but it was the first time I think they were physically there. So the feeling I would have to say I got was almost caring, but not like a, I love you, I want to take care of you kind of caring. It was that of a nurse doing their job. That's the only way I can put it. It was like I'm going to take care of you and then move on to the next patient.
Mhm.
That's the only way I know how to describe it. So,
Well, with this, we have reached the bottom of the hour, and I think we're going to take a little 5-minute break, and then we will be back.
okay, sounds like a plan.
And welcome back, everyone. And thank you for listening to A Touch of Spirit here at the Weird. Here at the Weird. My name is Richie, aka D Love, along with my co-host, which you've been listening to. Her name is Lorraine, aka Somi, and much love to Gigalite, who's here with us also. And wow, when I came in, it was like right in the middle of what you was talking about, your experience with the Grays,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, I've been kind of encapsulating what's been going on in my life, mainly for the last year. Although looking back, I realized that there were other events in my life that were most likely, I can't be 100% positive, but were most likely alien in nature. And I believe we had left off with the first time that I'm aware that they were physically
Hmm.
with me. Probably not the first time, but wow. And I will tell you this: I have since come to recognize a particular odor about them. It's have you ever said, "Wow, it smells like it's going to snow"? And I call it an
Right.
ozone smell. It's kind of like that, but perhaps a bit heavier and more metallic to it. I they do have this odor about them, so I do know what they smell like. When they talk to me telepathically, and they don't talk often. I will say that.
Mm.
Uh,
We have another question on the
I'm
chat room.
okay. Do you recall other incidents from your younger days, like your childhood? Not my childhood per se. Of course, understand too, I have all of my life communicated with spirit. So, is there a possibility? I mean, there are times as a child I talked to beings I thought were spirits. Were they actually aliens? Could be. Could
Mm.
be. I do remember one particular instance when I was 16 years old. A group of us had gone horseback riding. And one minute we were all, just kind of sitting on our horses underneath a tree trying to decide which direction to go. And all of a sudden, my horse shot off. I don't know if something bit him or he went, "Hey, I want to go home," or whatever. But the horse ran me into a tree limb, knocked me off. My foot got caught in the stirrup, drug me for about a quarter of a mile, I was later told,
Wow.
knocked me unconscious. And so a few hours later, I was in the emergency room, and they um, did an x-ray of my head to make sure I didn't have a concussion. And the doctor comes out, and she has an x-ray in her hand, and she looks at my mother and said, "When did she get shot in the head?" And
Gee.
Mom and I kind of looked at each other and were like, "What?" You know. There was a very small, maybe about a quarter of an inch long, metallic object in my frontal lobe,
Hmm.
and no idea how it got there. Mom and I are both going, "Never been shot, no idea, don't have a clue what you're talking about." And the doctor looked at the x-ray. She showed it to us, and kind of just kind of shrugged it off, and she kind of poked around on the middle of my forehead and was like, "Huh?" And she said, "Well, maybe something in the film," which we accepted as the possible answer. But since this has all started happening, I had to go back and revisit it. I do believe, I know I've had head CAT scans, particularly of my neck, and so forth, where it has not shown up. Was it something in the x-ray? Was it something alien that was later removed? Was it something metallically organic that eventually dissolved? I don't know. But it did make me take another look at it. Another event, I was 19 years old. I was 4.5 months pregnant. I started spotting a little bit, so my husband took me to the emergency room. They picked up a fetal heartbeat of more than 140 beats per minute. 12 hours later, the doctor was telling my husband that I had miscarried and that there was no fetus.
Whoa.
Now, how you go from having a fetal heartbeat of 140 beats per minute, which they were telling my husband was my own heartbeat, which at the time we accepted it because we were grieving, and it was like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Right.
My heart does not normally beat at 140 plus beats per minute. A fetus's does. But, yeah. Yeah.
We also have another question from Wayne in the chat room.
Mm-hmm.
And he's asking if there are other members of your family experiencing like the same incidents.
No, but it should be noted that I live alone. I don't at the moment. My 26-year-old niece is living with me. I hesitated about letting her move into my house for a few months, as she needed to because of the things going on. She has not reported anything happening. But no. Now, I will say this. This is interesting. It's almost like I can telepathically invite them when I think about them too much.
Uh-huh.
Guess what? They come for a little visit. So I have tried to be very, very careful while my niece is here not to go down that road.
Uh-huh.
Because I do think there is some type of telepathic connection. And as I started to say, most of the people here at the Weird know that last month I went on my annual spring trip with my paranormal investigation group. And I almost didn't go because I had a fear of something happening, while we were doing this. And the first night's investigation, some of you heard me speak about, was at the Presidio La Bahia. And it was very interesting that Sherian, our team leader, now, I have seen this woman, she's in her mid-30s. This is a fearless investigator. While other people are going, I think I want to go back to the safe room now, she's like, okay, I'll go by myself. I'm going to go check out what we just saw. I'm going to go check out that noise. I mean, she is a fearless investigator. And we were staying in the quarters, and Sharian is also a developing medium. She became very, very bothered in a very short hallway there in the quarters. And she told me later she kept getting the impression of quote unquote other. She was very afraid to go to the bathroom, to go past this hallway, to go back to the bathroom. And even one of the older gentlemen in our group with us, who spent some time alone in the quarters for a little while, became uncomfortable and did not want to be alone. We had some very bizarre and strange noises caught on the recorder. And I was wakened in the wee hours of the morning that I thought was by a spirit. One of my telltale signs that I have been in an alien presence is I have unique bruising. And that morning, I woke up to discover I again had the unique bruising. So, did something happen during that time? I don't know. I don't remember Alien at that time. But we had jumped ahead a little bit. I did say I would come back to the hypnosis I underwent in February. And even before I get to that, I will say I am an accountant by trade. I am very analytical. I am a problem solver. I cross my T's. I dot my I's. I am the first on my investigation team to debunk something.
Mm-hmm.
I do not accept things as paranormal. Even being a medium, I do not at first accept something as being paranormal. So, September, October, well, it was probably straddled the months. I actually went to my doctor of 15 years and said, hey, I'm a little concerned. He said, what's going on? Now, this is a man who, as I said, has known me for 15 years. And I said, well, either I am being visited by aliens or I'm going crazy. And he looked at me a moment and he said, well, I believe in extraterrestrial life, but as a doctor, I have to ask the same question. So he rifles through his files and he pulls out this little 3-page questionnaire, and it's a little psych thing. And I answered everything, and he looks at it and he says, no, you're fine. I said, not good enough. Not good enough. And he said, okay, let me send you to a psychiatrist. So a few weeks later, I go through a very intensive psych eval. And basically, he tells me, Lorraine, you have some depression. You lost your husband. You live alone. You're looking for a job. Yada, yada, yada. It's normal. You're not crazy. Passed it with flying colors. So I said, okay, I'm not losing it. So before any of you leave the show and go, she's losing it. No, I am not. I will say that emphatically and with a sheet of paper from the shrink, I am not losing it. So, just so you all know.
No, well, you know something, sweetie. Uh, I mean, we're in the same boat. And
Mhm.
if you're losing it, then I know I got to be losing it, which is not so, you know?
Well, my buddy, okay, well, Mystical Dragon is telling me that my straight jacket is ready.
Here you go.
So yes, I slowly began to speak. After that, after I was assured I was not losing my mind, I slowly begin saying a little more to a person here or a person there. Very recently, very, very recently, I have shared the events with my children. Now, these are adult children. My son is 30, my daughter's 24. And they have both said to me, "Yeah, okay, Mom, I don't doubt it." I have shared it with my friends who shocked me to the core that my two very best friends in the world, have said, "Oh, yeah, I believe I've been abducted." So I was like, I mean, it was just like when I became a medium, or when I went or started improving on my mediumship abilities. People started coming out of the woodwork saying, "Oh, yeah, I know so and so. It happened to me. Oh, yeah, my next door neighbor." And they were all fascinated.
Mhm.
So, but let's see. We have two more probably major things that I will go over. And I do ask you, bear with me because I am getting a little emotional.
Okay.
But the hypnosis.
You take your time, sweetie.
Again, I thought, I mean, I was really, really nagged by this. And I thought, okay, I mean, I'm a writer. And I thought, okay, well, I just had one of those artistic moments, and my imagination was going to the back of beyond and coming back. So I grabbed my dear friend Allison, who is a trained counselor. She is a therapist. She has experience in hypnotherapy, but I did not want her to do it because she really knew too much about what was going on. But I did want someone there who understood the mechanics of hypnotherapy and who could later tell me that, oh, yes, this person did a good job, or, oh, honey, she was leading you down the garden path, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, this kind of cool February morning, she and I, we drive the 30 miles to the place where I had, or I knew someone who could do this. And we get started. I tell the hypnotherapist, her name was Linda, lovely woman, who has done this more than once. And, we get started. And, I told her a little bit about it. We talked for about 20 minutes beforehand. The hypnosis lasted about an hour. Um, I was asked to lay on a table. I was given a blanket. I was kind of like, why do I need this? It's perfectly nice in this room. And she said, well, if we start pulling some energy from the atmosphere, then it's going to get cold. So I lay down on the table, and almost immediately a gray appears at my feet. And I was like, oh, crap. I really was. I was like, really? We haven't even started yet, And I did not say a word. I did not say a word. So Linda starts taking me through the hypnosis process. And my husband appears. He's not looking at me. He's looking at the gray at my feet. And after a while, I reach the alpha state. And I'm trying to ignore the gray. I'm trying to ignore my husband. I'm comforted by the fact he's there. And we go to the, because I told her I wanted to remember that specific event. I wanted to remember what I felt sure I had been made to forget. But I was hoping never happened. And yes, I remember. I start to remember things. And about 10 minutes in, the gray slowly starts to fade away. And I finally say, oh, good, he's leaving. And Linda says, who's leaving? And I say, the gray at my feet. At which point I hear my friend Allison go, which I thought was a little odd, but I didn't say anything at the time. We didn't go there. Now, note to self, my husband, the spirit, stared down the gray. So what does that mean, Richie? It means they were on the same plane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which, was kind of like giving me, the medium, ammo, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
I was like, oh yeah, oh yeah. But, I'm not going to go into much to what I recall.
Okay.
But afterwards, I don't know. It was like, okay, I'm not crazy. Okay, it did happen. But, yeah, I felt like I had been given ammo. Because you know what? I know how to deal with spirits when they become too much to deal with. Which meant I knew how to deal with the aliens, right?
Yeah.
But Allison told me afterwards. So, I was kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm freezing. I'm hungry. Oh, my mind was everywhere. But she told me that she was very careful not to allow herself to become hypnotized. And she did say that Linda did a wonderful job. That she would say things, she would not say things like, is there an alien with you? She would say, is there anyone with you, which is what a good hypnotherapist does,
Hmm.
Or she didn't say, "Were you taken?" She would say, "What happened next?" Or did anything else happen? Or what do you remember? She was very, very good about that. And yes, it was all recorded, and I'm actually going tomorrow to pick up the CD that, I mean, I haven't been in a hurry, but I am going tomorrow to pick up the CD that they prepared for me, because it was all recorded. But here's the interesting thing, why Allison sucked in her breath. So, now, Allison kind of had her back to me, because she did not want to be hypnotized herself, and she knew that was a danger. So she was kind of like, oh, look at the birds outside. There was a window there, and she was kind of like, yeah, okay. But she said before anything really got started, guess what? She sees a gray too. And I'm sorry, I am aware I don't sound like myself. I'm really emotional.
It's okay, love.
Um, I need a break.
Okay.
Okay, we'll be right back. We're going to take a 7-minute break.
Yeah. And welcome back to the A Touch of Spirit here at the Weird. My name is Richie, aka D Love, along with my co host, Lorraine, aka Soul Me. And of course, again, I want to thank so much to give much thanks to Gigabyte for producing this for me today. You know, uh, I'm sure that there are those in the chat room. In fact, I'm sure that there are those in the chat room who probably has had an encounter, as to what Lorraine was saying, and or keep having encounters. And uh, when you are in a situation like that, okay, where you're being visited or you're being abducted, I mean, it's a traumatic thing. Okay, I'm sure that it's much, even if it's happened like 3, 4, 5 times. I mean, it's just something that you just can't wrap around the head. You first things you want to understand is why is this happening to me? You know, and I'm sure there was a reason for it. There's a reason for everything. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I would definitely assume that she's needed, or they need her. We know that we have, I have heard of abductions, and the particular person that was abducted could have in health issues. Okay, and as time goes on, believe it or not, these health issues they start dissipating. In other words, you start to get cured. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and you want
I've
to
heard
put
that, yeah.
sure, and you want to put one with the other. Like okay, these grays or these aliens. I mean, there is a reason. Could it be that they're slowly but surely healing the person, physically, and trying to get them mentally in a state to let them know that whatever you was told, whatever you have seen or anything, we are real, you know? Now, I myself, I can tell you that I don't know, but I know that I have not been abducted. Uh, I have, I have felt energy that was not energy like when I work with spirit. It's not
Mm-hmm.
energy like that, nothing, you know? And I can, uh, I can imagine that's all I could do is work with just the imagination
Mm-hmm.
of having something like that happen, and I would bet that I would be in the same state you're in, Lorraine. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Um, yeah, you said exactly the the correct thing, because I have gone through so much of no, that didn't happen, and the whole I've said I did all this. Am I crazy? And I told you, I told you, I went to my doctor and I went to a psychiatrist because I thought this isn't right. But as much and I even said something to oh gosh, who was I talking to last night? But yeah, it was kind of like okay, well, yeah, there was someone in the chat room last night I was talking to, and I said, Well, as much as we know it happened, as much as we would like to put it behind us, as much as we would like to get on with our lives, we can't. There's still that part of us that we really can't let it go. And one of the reasons I can't, Richie, as much as I would like to, is because it's still happening.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just something that you can't get over. And I tell you why. I tell you what it is that you can't really understand. Like you said yourself, the motivation, okay, the motive for it, they're not being too clear about it. You would have known about it from the first times, okay. So
Mm-hmm.
they're not being too clear about it. Now, that would only indicate to me, it would only indicate to me is that maybe we're not ready to accept as to why it's happening, okay? But that, sure enough, you're needed. They need you. Okay, honey, if they come more than one time, okay, more than 3, 4 times, trust me, you need it. All right?
Well, okay, and I do apologize to those listening, but I, I didn't really ground myself enough before I started the broadcast. I probably should have, but um, and before the broadcast, I was telling you about what Allison saw, why she sucked in her breath. And here's the thing. As I said, she was being very careful not to let herself get hypnotized.
Mhm.
And so she's looking out the window going, oh, it's pretty out. And, oh, Linda has a nice voice, but yeah, I'm not going to listen to it. I mean, she was trying really hard not to get hypnotized. And she looks up, and guess what she sees? She sees a gray. And then she sees three. And then she said it was like, when we were kids, we used to cut out paper dolls and we would slowly unfold it, and there'd be 3,
Mhm.
6, 9, 12, and then there's another row behind, and there are more of them, and there are more of them, and there are more of them. And she was like kind of having an oh crap moment. She's like, where'd they all come from? And she said this was before she even heard me say that I had reached the alpha state, before I had told Linda that and remember, I had not said there was a gray at my feet. Now I can't see behind me where she is, so I have no idea. And I said, were they really there? And she said no, I saw them in my mind's eye.
Uh-huh.
You know, telepathically. So,
Yeah.
and she said that the whole time I'm talking, and she's trying to she's trying to be aware of what Linda's saying, because that's the whole reason why I brought her. She's like, they're just looking at me. What do I do? But when I said, oh, good, he's leaving, because the gray that my husband had stared down was was fading, she said all of hers started fading.
Right.
And when I said that, she knew I had seen one too, and that's why she sucked in her breath. She was like, "Oh, somebody else sees them too. Thank goodness." So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
um, and I really don't want to go too much into what I learned during the hypnosis. Yeah, no, I really don't want to go too much into that.
Mhm.
Yeah, but Richie, the reason why we decided to do this show was because of what happened this past Sunday, right?
Yeah, no, that's quite okay. I think we had talked about what we were going to discuss anyway. This was
Mhm.
one of them. Okay,
Mhm. Mhm.
this was definitely one of them. And I mean, the other topic, good. But now we have something else to talk about next week, you know? I mean, but it works
Yeah.
out. You know, there's a reason for everything, Lorraine. I can tell you this much, okay, hon?
Mhm.
I can tell you that, you know, you know, I don't want to make it feel like Gigalite is not with us because I refer this, you know, to him too. You know, when we have experiences, okay, and when we have them hardships, you know, or traumatic thing happen to us, yeah, at the moment it will not make any sense at the moment. Okay, this much I will say is that, you know, it's like the more you, when you get the time, when you have that energy, and you're able to express and talk about your experiences, you start to talk about, you know, what you have gone through. You know, believe it or not, it is a form of a healing process, okay, for you to accept where you have been, what you have
Mhm.
done, okay, and it's a healing process, and you start feeling the healing that, you know, God, now I'm able to talk about the more I'm talking about this, the less choked up, the less emotional I am about it, because now I'm able to rationalize as to, you know, what is happening. Now, as to why it's happening, of course, you know, then imagine, imagine me trying to sit down and eat one whole cake at one time instead of doing it by pieces. Okay? And normally
Mhm.
things are done in pieces. All right? That's a normal
Right.
format. All right? Of course, we're not going to chew the cake all in one shot. So it's little by little. And as you start getting into the cake, or as you start getting into situations, or as you start getting into experiences, well, the little pieces, they become puzzles, okay? And of course, it's a matter of just putting these together, all right? And you start to come up to a surmising as to, okay, now we're starting to fall in place. And some things
Mhm.
are starting to make sense. Okay? So guess what? The other things that don't make sense, I'm gonna be patient. Okay, just as long as I know that I'm not being hurt, I'm not being beat up in any way or abused, I'm gonna go along. I'm gonna go with this, see what, and believe it or not, it won't be too long till you finally realize why they're there and why they are abducting, okay, and their way of being and why they come to visit. If I'm not mistaken, I think a week ago we had touched a little bit on aliens, okay, on grays,
Mhm.
and I had told the situation that Phil Spector uh, said himself, and that back when Eisenhower was president, I think before him, there was a meeting. There was a meeting.
Mhm.
Okay, there was some dignitaries also from the United Nations in this meeting, and there was a gray. Okay, and the
Mhm.
gray started to articulate what the purpose was for them being here. Okay, they had told us that we needed to be uh, more lenient to our fellow humans in this planet. Okay, and they had stressed to us that, we should not be careless with the power that we possess. Now, the power that we possess, that we should be more careful Well, what they were talking about, believe it or not, was the annihilation of other humans,
Mhm.
okay, in form of nuclear war. All right, that's the ultimate power, I think, that we possessed, and it is dangerous. It is very sad. Well, when something like that has to be used, and they weren't in agreement of what we did, so it's like, oh, it was like making a contract with them, you know, that we don't go that far.
Right.
But the sad part is that unfortunately, and we see it, uh, there's no way to avoid war because of differences, and I mean, just taking candy from other people with no permission or nothing, you know, and I mean, okay, yeah. Now we know that we shouldn't use these weapons and whatnot, and we should try our best to do it in a diplomatic form, which sometimes doesn't work. You know, but that we should be more lenient. Now that's interesting because you know when I was hearing this stuff, it related so much into the spiritual world. Okay,
Oh yeah.
uh, and again, I'm not trying to push my belief on anyone. I really respect everyone's belief system, but in the way I carry myself in the spiritual form is that they make a whole lot of sense. You know, uh, Unfortunately, physically, we don't see ourselves as being brothers and sisters. And it's unfortunate that we don't see that because of our color of the skin, our languages, because of our belief system, because of what we. But spiritual wise, our spiritual beings, it's a fact that we are all connected, spiritually.
Mhm.
And we're talking about a race that is way advanced than ours. Okay, they are much more advanced. And I can only imagine that if we were to really humble ourselves, and if nation was to work with nations throughout this world as one, I'm sure that right there would be the little opening of a door of things that we should have known way back. I'm talking about things that we should have worked with a long time ago.
Mhm.
But, you know, and I don't leave myself out because, I'm part of mankind. So, it's like when things happen, and in fact, I was speaking to a friend of mine, Nathan, and things happened. I told Nathan, we as a humankind here, we ought to be ashamed of ourselves. I'm ashamed of myself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we ought to be ashamed and really accept the fact that we do come short. Okay, we do come short. And Nathan was trying to figure out exactly what I was trying to talk about. And I told him, when it works, when it's really going to make sense, when the world altogether starts to, when we start to humble ourselves, okay, and we drop this pride, and we drop this arrogance, and we drop all this negativity, and finally come to realize that I am no better than my other brothers and sisters living in the other part of the world. I know better,
Exactly. Exactly.
okay? And we must all become like that in the face of whatever it is that's trying to get us to be humble. You know, well, here for an example, Lorraine, and I'm sure you feel the same way. You know, when I, yeah, when I have the chance to meet beautiful people, okay, and I mean beautiful people like yourself, I mean, beautiful people like Gigalite, and beautiful people like Jessica, who lives in Australia, and beautiful people like Hanky, a woman who lives up in Germany, and some other friends I know in Japan and other parts of the world. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I really want to be with them. You know, and they feel the same way. They would like to meet me, and I would like to meet them, and this is how it begins. You know, and as we talk, we start to realize that there isn't any difference on how we're living. You know, it's about a struggle. It's about getting up in the morning like we all do. We all get dressed the same way, and we all go try to get a job. You know, we're working to support, to survive, and everything. There
Right.
is really no difference. You know, how can I put it? You know, it's the same song, but with different beats to that same song.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, with different beats, and we must learn. We must accept the fact that, yeah,
Well, we need to shed our greed,
mhm,
and then we can live and let live. That's the bottom line. But uh, Richie, and that's been a recurring theme on several of the shows here is getting rid of the greed and the power hungry and everything, so that we can just be and get on with it. And unfortunately, a lot of people aren't listening. That's
no,
the sad truth of it. But very quickly before we wind up the show, if I may, what started us down this avenue was where I am currently at, or my latest happening, which took place just this past Sunday,
okay,
and it's very short and sweet. My alarm went off at 8 a.m.
right,
and I reached over and turned it off, sat up, and finally got both eyes open, and I realized I was looking at the legs. I was looking at six little legs.
hmm
Let me put it that way. And I had an oh crap moment, and I started floating up, and it was like someone had tied a rope around my waist. I was actually bent at the waist, hands and feet dangling down, and I was like, "What happens when I hit the ceiling?" And it's very funny. I said earlier, it's funny what all runs through our mind, because my first thought was, "Wait, can I get dressed first?" Because I was still in my nightgown. And then
right,
my second thought was, "Where's Bo, my cat?" And normally when they come, he goes under the bed and he has a hole in the box springs, and he gets up into the box springs. I assume that's where he was at. Then it was like, I don't remember floating through space or atmosphere or anything like that. Then it was like almost a sucking feeling, and I was in a room, and it was actually a very bright room. There was a window or a screen. I'm not sure. We've all seen Star Trek. They have this wonderful screen that looks like a window. I'm not sure which it was, and I was made to sit. I couldn't. I don't remember the whole thing. Because actually, what happened was, while it was happening, I remembered parts of it, but once I got back, I remembered more of it.
hmm
And I was made to sit at a very low table. It was metal, and it was so low that my knees were actually touching the floor, and it was almost like I was sitting on my heels with a board between my feet and my bottom. I mean, that's how low the table was. And if I put my forearms on the table, I felt like I was kneeling almost, on my forearms. And they put a tablet in front of me. Now, at first I thought this tablet was stone. Then I thought it was metal. Later, I realized it was organic. There were symbols on the tablet, and I was repeatedly told, remember. It wasn't a remember like memorize the symbols. It was as though these symbols were supposed to spark a memory within me.
Uh-huh.
And they were telling me, look at these and remember what it is you're supposed to remember. They told me to rearrange them, to put them in the right order. And interestingly enough, when I looked at one of the symbols and looked at the spot I thought it should go, it would just magically appear there. It was really very kind of cool. At one point, I realized my blood sugar was dropping, and I was like, hey, I need to go home. I need to take care of this. And all of a sudden, I was in another room. I was on a table, and they were trying to cram a tube down my throat. I was not happy about this. I was choking. One of them put their hand on my forehead, and I became very calm. Then I was standing by the window. It was daylight now. Last Sunday here in Dallas, it was pouring down rain, so I know I was not in Dallas. It was very sunny wherever I was. There were some buildings. There were 2 ships in combat behind one of the buildings. But it really didn't register with me at that time. It was later, after I was thinking about everything I had seen, that I realized what was going on with those 2 ships. They had me sit back down at the table. During all this time, I was asking questions constantly, but never receiving any answers. I do think I got one of their names, but I can't remember. I know it begins with an S, but I can't remember what it was. And I finally reached a point where I said, that's it. I'm not doing this anymore. I am done. The next thing I knew, I landed on my hands and knees in my bed with so much force I bounced.
Uh-huh.
And it was 5:34 p.m.
Wow.
9.5 hours.
Wow.
Now, time I don't believe is relative on other realms. If I was in another realm, I may have only been there 10 minutes. I don't know.
Yeah, I believe that.
I know my knees hurt afterwards. But, yeah. That's the first time I've ever been taken for that long that I'm aware of.
Wow. I mean, that is one very interesting testimony, you know. Uh, like I said, I mean, I could imagine. It's all I could do was just imagine. And, uh, mm, oh, well, I've said it before, and I'll say it again, Lorraine. You're a special person, okay? And I'm sure they feel this way too. All right, and you need it. You need it. They need you. Uh,
Well, here's the thing. One of the reasons why I agreed to do this broadcast was, I went through oh my gosh, if I start talking about this, somebody's going to lock me up. Maybe my kids. I really did. I went through all that. In here at the Weird, I have seen a lot of fear. There are people who come in, and because I'm empathic, I pick up things. There are a lot of people who talk to me in PM about this stuff, who have
Right.
experienced things, but they are afraid to say it out loud. I do believe that when you raise your level of consciousness, you get closer to their evolution.
Mm-hmm.
And this may be of interest to them. I have been told from past life readings that I am not of this earth, which explains a whole lot, but hey, so, uh, oh, and Mystical Dragon just said, I still wish I knew who the fish-faced alien was I seen the other night while talking to you, Sammy. The the next evening, I think it was, Mystical Dragon actually heard someone saying my name over and over, and he saw this alien with a metal table and some tools on it, and it was kind of freaky. Dragon is a phenomenal energy reader, and when he sees things, I trust it implicitly, but he said that he felt like, this alien was aware that he and I knew each other and so forth. So yeah, we really have no idea what they can do telepathically. And I guess that, now that here's where I'm at. I was on a really, really good path as a medium and teaching my workshops and helping others develop. And I have gotten to the point now where I have to deal with this side of it. I have not meditated for more than 5 minutes, probably in 6 months, because every time I do, they show up.
Mm-hmm.
So there's part of me that has to say, unless you're prepared to deal with this, be careful where you go with that. And I have since met other people who talk to aliens through meditation and are fine with it. I mean, they're perfectly fine with it. So just, it has to be part of the warning label, I guess. But yeah, there are a lot of us out there. There are a lot of contactees that, because we do not have a lot of physical evidence, we're being dismissed. And, if that's the case, then, I mean, if it take, and I do have a scar. I did wake up about 6 weeks ago, and my hand automatically went behind my right knee, and there's like a divot or where some flesh was scooped out. It's about 1.5 inches wide, about 3 inches above the bend of my knee. I have no idea how it got there.
Mm-hmm.
No idea at all. So I do have some physical evidence, but I mean, anybody looking at it could say, oh, you were injured as a kid. I mean, who knows? I don't remember it. So that's all I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Okay.
So yeah. And I guess people just need to understand they're not alone with this. It does
No.
happen, and like Giggs said earlier, Rocket had said there are millions,
Oh yeah.
and so many are afraid to speak of it. And yeah, anyway, that's my story. That's how I ended up here at the Weird,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
I'm sticking to it.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. All we could do, as a listener, all I can do is definitely respect what you're saying. Okay. And I think I have an advantage in the fact that I'm able to feel energy, okay,
Mhm.
and I'm even able to feel energy through voice vibrations. All
Mhm.
right, and no, this is definitely legit stuff. All right, it's real, very interesting. I've not had any encounters. I swear I haven't, but then who's to say that I didn't have one? But I swear I did not have any.
Well, that's the
And
thing. I
as I,
believe most of us have been taken, but most of
yeah,
us don't remember.
and
So,
don't have any recollection about what's going on. I can tell you that, me being the person I am, I definitely have much respect for aliens. Uh, just the same way I have much love and respect for spirit itself. Okay, and that I can tell you, I've had some very interesting encounters, but then that's another subject. But anyhow, if you don't mind, Lorraine, we can wrap this show up if you don't mind.
I'm good, thank you, and thanks
Okay,
everyone for listening. I know it was lengthy, but I thought maybe if I broke the ice, some other people might come forward, and
sure, sure. And
that.
it's not. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just, I really, if nothing else, I want to impart. You're not alone. It's not happening to you alone. I mean, there's a whole lot more to what I had, but those were probably some of the higher points. And there's some things I will never share, but it's happening. It's out there, and anyway, like I said, you're not alone.
Yeah, no. When I close up my shows, I always like to state the fact that you're never alone. We may be going through struggles, we may be going through some emotional times, through some hardships, but always know that there is an exit, okay? And if we stay focused, and if we be patient, which is very important, we do see that light at the end of the tunnel. Okay, and what perfect direction to go, because there we will find the healing. There we will find the calmness and the closures of things that are happening around us, and that's the way I want to close out the day. So, I want to thank everyone for listening to A Touch of Spirit here at The Weird. Again, my name is Richie, a.k.a. D-Love. My beautiful co-host, Lorraine, a.k.a. Somi, and my brother, Gigalite. And again, thank you for listening. May the Creator bless you and always keep blessing you. Always wish nothing but positive for everyone. And till next week, you take care and always know that you're loved.